Okay, I can see more and more people are entering the room, but I think it's a good time to start now. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. A very warm welcome to today's ECIPE online webinar, in which we want to focus on EU economic and technology policy making and East Germany. What are the impacts of EU economic policy making on East Germany and the other way around? What are the lessons to be taken from East Germany to inform and actually improve EU economic policy making? This is actually the first ECIPE event focusing on East Germany, my mother country, if you like, and a region that is quite close to my heart. And it's also important to cover East Germany because despite being part of Europe's largest economy, Germany, the region rarely gets attention in international media or EU and international political debates. When we talk about Germany, we hear a lot about Germany's economic strength. More recently, potentially also the gradual economic decline of East Germany. But we hear far less about East Germany, which is a region that economically still lags behind many wealthier parts in Europe. Now, what are we talking about when we talk about East Germany? Well, East Germany, it was once a manufacturing hub before World War II, a manufacturing hub in the Soviet-controlled economy following 40 years after World War II. After Germany's reunification in 1990, the region suffered from deindustrialization and also brain drain. For example, in 1989, the population was about 16 million. And now we stand at around 12.5, largely driven by migration westwards, but other demographic shifts as well. The 1990s, following Germany's reunification, the fall of the Iron Curtain, brought a massive economic transition to East Germany, accompanied by mass unemployment. At the same time, it brought massive public and private investment to Germany, to the eastern part of Germany. Public and private infrastructure was heavily modernized. Subsidies and tax incentives were primarily used to revive not only the public sector, but also private sector industries. But there's one lesson, and let me state this right away. I think that's a critical lesson for EU economic policy making as well. One lesson, and that is that economic activity cannot simply transplant it from one place to another. Today, East Germany has few homegrown economic giants, few homegrown multinational corporations. When you look at East Germany from a bird's eye perspective, the region remains dominated, or let's say shaped by small businesses, even though there are some notable subsidiaries of Western German firms, but also other European international multinationals. But overall, again, looking at East Germany from a high-level perspective, productivity is still at around 75–80% of what we observe in Western Germany. This is also reflected by lower wages and lower salaries compared to large parts of Western Germany. And on top of that, of course, the lack of private sector investment. Now, when we look at the current investment climate, there are survey data that give a rather sobering outlook. And here I would like to thank Christian Schädlich, who is running a very sophisticated economic surveying branch at CET, the Center for Digital Transformation based in Jena, Thuringia. And according to his latest survey from a couple of weeks ago, many businesses in Thuringia, and this is also true for other parts of East Germany, they report existential concerns. 1/3 fear for their survival, actually. Investment, job prospect are search. There are high energy, high density of there's economic instability, potentially also political instability, which heavily weighs on the region and on the climate in East Germany. But there are also bright spots. Digital investments in AI, for example, it remains a domain of economic expansion, business expansion, and growth. There are a handful of tech and AI companies, startups emerging in Thuringia, East Germany's smallest federal state, but also other parts of East Germany. And they offer innovation and access to innovation in a tough economic environment. Another recent survey by SET, focusing on AI adoption in Thuringia, found that despite the economy being in a recession, AI adoption remains fairly strong, especially among pioneer companies in economic clusters, especially in larger cities in East Germany and Thuringia, and early adopters. And importantly, many businesses, they are actually more concerned about lacking expertise internally than they are concerned about risky AI use cases, a term that is actually dominating the political debate in Brussels and some EU member states. There's also no perceived lack of political support, and businesses increasingly realize AI's huge potential, especially when it comes to efficiency gains, cost savings, and overall operational productivity enhancements. Today, we are joined by 2 CEOs of AI companies and then EU policymakers actively engaging in shaping Europe's business environment. Together, we want to explore whether EU policies do support or actually hinder economic development and innovation in Europe, but especially in East Germany. And we also want to address the single market and industrial policies. Is a stronger single market, can a stronger single market be the solution of so many problems, so many challenges businesses currently face across Europe, including East Germany? Or do we need more industrial policies, more subsidies to help companies in East Germany and other regions to compete on the European market or global markets? We have with us today Marion Walsmann. Marion is a member of the European Parliament. Thank you for being here, Marion. Marion is affiliated with the Christian Democratic Party in Germany. She's obviously also a member of the EPP group in the European Parliament, being a vice chair of the Legal Affairs Committee and a member of the Internal Market and Consumer Protection Committee in the European Parliament. We also have Konstanze Olszewski. She is the CEO of 2 emerging AI companies, Alpha Analytics and Phoenix Alpha, 2 companies focusing, if I understand it correctly, Konstanze, on data analytics and AI model performance monitoring. And we have Dr. Martin Schieder. He's the CEO and co-founder of AI UI, an AI startup based in Thuringia that provides on-premises AI solutions which offer high data security and high data controllability. Now, each of our panelists will have 8 to 10 minutes for an intervention before we start and enter into a conversation with our audience. So, dear audience, please put your questions, your comments in the chat box so I can get back to them in a minute. Without further ado, Marion, I would like to hand over to you for a first intervention. Thank you very much.
Yeah, dear Matthias, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Greetings from Strasbourg, from the plenary week at the European Parliament. I'm delighted to be here today and to be able to talk to you about topics that are very close to my heart. As Vice Chair of the Committee of Legal Affairs and a member of the Committee on the Internal Market and Consumer Protection, the issues of business, innovation, and a forward-looking approach are particularly relevant to me. SMEs also play a major role in my daily work, and I'm especially committed to them as one of the co-chairs of the EPP SME Circle and its German version, the so-called Parlamentskreis Mittelstand. Today, too, it is clear our topic could hardly be more relevant as it combines the major issues of European economic policy with the very concrete experiences of East Germany, a region that has undergone immense economic transformation since reunification. The so-called Brussels effect, once celebrated as an expression of European regulatory power and a successful model for globally set standards, now has an increasingly negative connotation. What used to be seen as Europe's positive influence on global markets, it's now increasingly perceived as expressive regulation that slows down innovation and distorts competition. This change is particularly noticeable from an East German perspective. The region has had to contend with structural disaverages over the last 3 decades, from deindustrialization after reunification to demographic challenges and unequal competitive conditions. Nevertheless, impressive economic success stories have developed here, often driven by courageous entrepreneurs who have broken new ground with innovation and creatively. One example of this is Sachsenmilch, which was founded after reunification and is now one of the largest dairies in Germany. Or the company Jenoptik in Jena, from Jena, which emerged from a former GDR combine and is now a global leader in photonics technology. These stories are examples of the opportunities that can develop even from difficult economic situations. European founding was undoubtedly a key element in this. EU structural funds have helped to build infrastructure, support companies in their transformation, and above all, strengthen Eastern Germany as a center of research and innovation. For example, we have been able to establish one of the most modern microelectronics cluster in Europe in cities such as Dresden. Such projects show the potential that EU policy can unleash. But there is also a downside. Too many bureaucratic hurdles, complex application procedures, and a sometimes one-side focus on funding programs that are not always a perfect fit. Many companies, especially in the SME sector, report funding applications that run to hundreds of pages and take months to process. One specific example is the EU funding program Horizon Europe, where small companies often need specialist consultants to understand the complex requirements. Another example is the Invest EU funding program, where many startups fail due to strike obligations to provide evidence. The bureaucracy tees up resources that would be better challenged into research, development, and growth. So, what we need is more flexibility and better harmonization between European and regional needs. We need to remove barriers to innovation, especially for our small and medium-sized enterprises, which form the backbone of our economy. Financing also plays a central role here. While large companies often have easy access to capital markets, many startups and SMEs are still struggling to finance their innovative projects. This is where Europe could do much more through more venture capital, less bureaucracy, and target programs to promote entrepreneurship. An important step in this direction is the first of the EU's next omnibus regulations, which was presented at the end of February. It aims to significantly streamline the reporting obligations for companies, especially focusing on sustainability reporting, tax transparency, and financing reporting. By simplifying reporting obligations and reducing administrative burdens, we are creating more room for entrepreneurial maneuver. Regarding the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, called CSRD, it is proposed to exempt around 80% of companies from its scope and to focus the relevant obligation on the largest companies as their activities has the greatest impact on people and the environment. For cooperative sustainability due diligence directive, due diligence will only be required for the companies' direct suppliers, simplifying complex reporting requirements. For taxonomy reporting, a minimum financial threshold is planned to be introduced, and the number of reporting forms is to be reduced by around 70%, thereby reducing the administrative burden. I would like to mention the competitiveness compass. The competitiveness compass is based on the valuable lessons from the Letta and Draghi reports and serves as a strategic guideline for strengthening Europe's competitiveness in the long term. The compass presents concrete measures to make Europe more resilient to global market fluctuations and to specifically promote growth areas such as digitalization, green technology, and industrial innovation. A key objective is to adapt the framework conditions so that companies can make investments more quickly and bring innovations to market maturity. This will not only increase productivity, but also create high-quality jobs in the long term. But ultimately, it is important not only to improve the current situation, but also to look to the future, promote innovative projects, and use leading technologies in the future. Artificial intelligence undoubtedly plays a crucial role here. As the European Union, we must, of course, master the balancing act between the efficient use of AI and a critical view of the dangers that this new technology entails. As the first jurisdiction in the world, we have therefore decided to regulate the use of AI with the AI Act within a legal framework that serves precisely the purpose to exploit the benefit and aware the danger of AI. Especially its advantages open up new opportunities for many regions in Eastern Germany. I already spoke briefly about Dresden as a location for innovation, which is also home to the Fraunhofer Institute, which plays an important role in this context alongside numerous other East German research institutions. Other examples of areas in which AI is becoming increasingly important includes its use in medical technology in Jena, in the automotive industry in Leipzig, for example, and in agriculture in Brandenburg, where AI analyzes soil and weather data, among other things, to help increase efficiency and yields. So let us take the lessons of East Germany history seriously. If we unnecessarily slow down our companies and restrict them too much, then it is primarily our economy that suffers, but ultimately each and every one of us. The best economic policy decisions are made where we promote innovation and technologies of the future, where we reduce bureaucratic obstacles and give companies the freedom to compete. The Brussels effect must once again become a positive signal for more opportunities, more growth, and more competitiveness throughout Europe. If this succeeds, we all will benefit. I'm now very much looking forward to the contributions from the field and eagerly awaiting the subsequent discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mario. And I couldn't agree with what you said about the Brussels effect, and that, yeah, right now I think it's still having this negative connotation, and it needs to become a synonym of something that can really help improve Europe's economic and legal landscape in order to bring economic activity on the ground and help European businesses to catch up with what is happening outside Europe, largely emerging Asian economies, but also North America primarily. We will now hand over to Constanze, she's a practitioner, head of two emerging AI companies. And Constanze, what are your views about East Germany, the particularities of the region, the role technology already plays, the role technology should play in the future, and also be not shy to tell us what your companies are actually doing and where you consider your companies being or taking a role and operate in the future, including plans to expand across EU borders, to expand globally. Don't be shy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and maybe I can give you some insights about our journey, and maybe we can see at that example some points that we were talking about, and maybe discuss those later. I'm here today with my second company, Phoenix Alpha. Mainly, I'm co-founder of this company, CEO currently, and started this company in 2022 as a software product and we want to ensure quality for industrial AI systems and increase their transparency and explainability. So as a software company, we enable mainly SMEs because these are the ones around us to validate and monitor their AI systems. So we currently address companies that are already regulated under a certain existing regulation or count as critical infrastructure, are under regulation of medical device regulation or machinery regulation, that want to use AI, currently use AI, and face additional regulations through the new AI Act, as Marion mentioned. So I mean, in those sectors, you should assume that those companies are interested by themselves to monitor and validate their AI systems. But we don't see that too often. So now they are required to ensure safety and transparency. So for some, it's maybe a good thing the regulation is there, but yeah, also comes with some circumstances for everyone else, I would assume. So the AI Act is for our company quite interesting. And maybe in our case, even an accelerator for our business. I know oftentimes we have the discussion if it's slowing down innovation or a problem for startups in general. And I think there are some valid points to discuss. For us, maybe it's an accelerator. We will see about that. I myself have a background in bioinformatics and biophotonics, and I spent some time at a research institute. So several years I spent my time using machine learning and AI systems to identify viruses and bacteria for medical applications, and then transferred that into my own company, into my own business in 2015. I started with alpha analytics in the area of industrial AI. So I have a kind of track record in developing, training, validating, and deploying AI models in the industrial sector. And we are not talking about generative AI systems that we currently see a lot, but about predictive AI systems. So I've currently around 10 years of experience in improving production processes, production quality, machine health, using AI systems, advanced analytics, and machine learning. I'm also co-organizing the startup community in Thuringia. I mean, we started 2015, and with the first startup, it was quite nice to have, or we needed exchange between founders to discuss what we are currently doing, if our plans are valid, and how to develop a company. I mean, oftentimes those are new topics. I think especially in East Germany, I myself also don't have entrepreneurial family background or something like that, and I know a lot of founders who can't count on parents or family or friends around that have companies and from whom they can learn. So it was quite important to have that community, to start that community, to have an exchange between founders. And yeah, until today, with some more experience, I try to support young startups and help them on their path. And yeah, maybe to not do everything we did in our early days, and maybe get forward a little bit faster. So the Phoenix Alpha that I present today is basically a spin-off of my first company, Alpha Analytics. And the idea is to fulfill some need that I foresaw in our projects in the Alpha Analytics. So we developed their AI systems for process monitoring to improve production quality. And if you have a critical process and want to add AI to it, you should understand what you're doing there, and especially what your AI is doing there, to really make use of that AI, but also not run into problems in that area. So some years into our AI projects, we saw repeating tasks that when AI systems were deployed. So over time, their performance oftentimes degrades and needs some kind of maintenance. So we thought, repeating task in a startup manner, we offer a product to actually solve that task on a regular basis. So we have a system not only to validate and monitor the AI, but then also a system that helps to understand the decisions AI is making, so that people that are working on the shop floor can actually work with AI systems and not oftentimes discuss against each other. So I think we have here a second perspective that opened up over time next to the quality assurance, that we can offer more transparency for those systems and easier understanding, and therefore maybe facilitate the adoption of AI in different industries, because I'm quite convinced that adoption of these AI systems to improve industrial processes has a very high potential for our future development, maybe even to increase our productivity numbers a little bit. And so I'm very happy if I can contribute to the path that AI adoption is increased in those areas. And starting a company, the first one, but also the second one, and finding first customers is quite slow, especially in our local area. So we have few companies who have actual value creation in our region, and are oftentimes only extended workbenches. A lot of the automotive sector, which had some problems in the last years. You might have heard about that. So there are few budgets for actual innovation, and not so much companies in close proximity or in our network that are open to test and explore. So it's oftentimes a budget question, and they are not too open to try new things and to follow maybe an innovation path. And so with such a topic, we need some patience to get local references, first customers, which aren't easily available in our region or network. But I mean, that would be the best case to really have in your neighboring network the first adoption or the first cooperations, actually. And we also started last year looking for investment, or actually a little bit earlier already. And yeah, learned there that investors were quite hesitant in the beginning, although the AI Act was on the horizon. So you should think it is a no-brainer for investment if you think or see what's coming, and to invest in a company that's offering a solution for that area. But yeah, we saw a lot of hesitation before the AI Act was in full force. And after that, we still see some kind of hesitation. So for now, we decided or started to build our MVP by ourselves, developed our MVP further with our first customers. And we are, of course, slower than a startup maybe should be, but currently that's the only way to follow a bootstrapping path and bring the systems organically to our project customers. So it could be faster. But for now, we tried and couldn't make it happen in that way. Maybe we will start another round, another try. But for now, it's on ourselves to refinance that basically from the first company. And another option to cooperate are, for example, research projects. But here, especially in this innovative area, we have the problem that you're working then together for 3 to 5 years on the topic that could be solved quite faster within a year or something. So it slows down everyone. The SMEs that are within the research projects, the startups in the development of their product, because you're kind of bound also with your personnel in the project. So that would be really nice to have maybe differently shaped tools that fit to the really fast development in AI topics, where we I think have to go faster with our innovation steps. And so that would be very nice to have easier manageable tools to actually profit from those innovation support. So I hope I could give some insights and give some points to discuss. So yeah, I'm very much looking for to have some questions later on.
Thank you very much, Constanze. So there are already many voices popping up in my mind as concerns follow-up questions. So thank you very much for explaining what you do and how difficult it is in a way to find customers at your doorstep. That is basically a heritage of East Germany's political and economic history. I would assume that it would be much more easy for you to approach and actually convince clients to buy your service, your solutions, if you would be located in, you know, Frankfurt, Hamburg, or Stuttgart, where you have larger businesses in close proximity to where your business is located. Martin, over to you. Could you perhaps also elaborate a bit on the challenges of the circumstances of time and place of being a business owner in East Germany?
Yeah, sure. This is also part of what I wanted to tell you. So I thank you for the first time. Thank you for having me here, for the invitation. And I would start with who am I? What are we doing? And I will come to these questions also. Well, first of all, my name is Dr. Martin Schiele. I did my PhD in a combination of automotive engineering and AI via reinforcement learning. Afterwards, I founded a company with some colleagues called AI/UI for artificial intelligence user interface. Well, to deliver easy no-code access to AI for common people. That was our idea. At AI/UI, we are delivering fully functional AI systems, as you already said, with agents, OCR, image processing, audio processing, knowledge management, all that stuff on premise. That means local or in the cloud. So basically, where the customer wants to have the AI, so that the data of the customer is safe and nothing is to send to the US or China. We deliver it compliant to general data protection regulations. One could say we were building it from an EU perspective since the beginning, and companies start to adapt this. That means they find out, okay, I can have ChatGPT at home. One has rather the choice now to use big players, a little cheaper, like OpenAI or Microsoft, or be dependent, or come to AI/UI to get full independency on the long run. That's what we do. Let us now come to the question, how did the last 4 years since our founding went so far? Well, first, the AI hype is still getting bigger, but we got most of our customers, as Constance said already, not in East Germany, but more in the West or in the South, because there is more money and they are more open to new technologies. This is maybe a combination of having more money and being more open. We have venture capital on our side. It means we got like 1.5 million seed invest 2 years ago. And wanted to have a second funding round this month, but could not get adequate investors on top of our main investors. So to say, it seems hard out here to get fresh money for deep tech startups. It's not that easy. And one has to say most AI startups are not earning money yet. So the only one I know is Midjourney. They got like 40 employees and earn about 200 million a year. But like OpenAI, they just burn billions, right? You need to have strong funding to get to the point to lead anywhere in the field. Well, we had a fully developed Industry 4.0 AI product already developed in 2021, but there were few who bought it. Industry 4.0 was just marketing in our experience. Companies were waiting for AI to go away again. They said it to us. They said, okay, yeah, we're selling our products with AI because our customers want to read this. But there's nothing different to the algorithms we invented 10 years ago, right? So what I can definitely say regarding the last 4 years is without ChatGPT, we would have already been dead. Well, and most SMEs still sit there and state AI will go away. And lots of them still did not learn any lesson. That's what you have to say. But more and more get in mind, okay, maybe I have to do something to stay competitive in the future. What are the boundary conditions in East Germany and Europe? What is the status quo? Well, East Germany is weak regarding gross domestic product. So we got, as I said, more customers from the South or West, as I already said. East Germans are weak in marketing, you have to say this, but good in making. And I say this from my own perspective and experience as I was born and raised in East Germany. Authenticity is the key value and getting shit done. You have to say it like this. Visibility is missing. We got few press, we got no lobby and small networks. If we do not go out and visit networks in the South or West, we wouldn't get the visibility we need to at least earn money. But East Germany has also advantages. For example, lower income, rent for offices is low. So this addresses mainly the cost side, right? Subsidies are mostly not helpful in the way they are distributed now, in my opinion. We profit from subsidies, I have to say, like employee funding. But I assume it would help a lot more if established companies would get incentivized via tax or so to fund startups or try out new technologies without having to screen 1,000 funding projects with bureaucratic overhead. Next, explain it in this way. I come from the university where I did my PhD. I gave a damn about where the money came from, and that was good for scientific work. But right now in the industry, without the pressure to earn money, there would be no urge to deliver products that customers need. You can see this with the so-called AI trainers. AI trainers are funded people around Germany that get paid to help companies with AI questions, do POCs, do presentations, and so on. And this is important, AI trainers often have incredible bad presentations. One small image and a whole Harry Potter book volume for each slide of text. Customers immediately pull out their mobile phones, but not for taking notes. They get bored and screen social media. They are just not interested in what they have to say. These AI trainers are funded all over Germany and are mostly scientists from universities. They got the knowledge, but never had to create products or sell something to customers, right? They have no interest in market fit and are therefore just waste of time and money. Why do they have no incentive to perform well? Yeah, well, because they get paid anyway. They are funded from the EU in the end. What are possible problems I see within the EU and missing potential? AI sovereignty is a hot topic and a little bit missing. I mean, only hope is Mistral AI from France. Aleph Alpha is just a waste of money. Hardly anyone in the industry I talk to and has knowledge about AI topics has really much respect for their work or their funding they received, because they have not delivered anything right now. No usable AI model, nothing. The EU has no easy-to-use domestic market because of the different cultures and languages. Even the Indians are speaking English all over their country, right? And they are 1.4 billion. It's much easier to sell in India than to sell in the EU. And I have to say this really hard. We need less socialistic tendencies, less regulation, less tax. A political, more left approach assumes that the central controlled intelligence is more capable of steering everything right than a right political approach, because where one assumes that each person out there in the market is intelligent enough to make the right decisions for her or him, so that in the end, multiple of millions of single decisions lead to better results than a centralized strategy. That's the way I think could help. History shows impressively that the centralized way never led to a better answers or faster growth. On the contrary, it failed every time regarding humanitarian factors as well as economical ones. I mean, East Germany is behind because of this kind of history. I mean, we have a socialistic history. We should not tend to repeat this, but we are on the best way to do so. Best example in my view is Open Euro LLM. That's a brand new initiative to get 20 leading research institutes and companies and Euro HPCs, high performance clusters, together. I mean, 40 to 50 million for 20 plus organizations. They want to clone DeepSeek. DeepSeek consists of a mostly homogeneous stuff that speaks the same language and is part of one organization. The meetings alone, to face the overhead, will cost several millions measured in time. And as soon as they start, they are already outdated. It is nothing more than waste of money and time. And it will be a shame at the end for everyone to see when the result is presented. This is my point of view, because this will not work out. Too many people, too much overhead. So my last overall statement, we got the money, really, and we got the talent in the EU. We got so many talented people. What we need is less regulation, regulative structure, less bureaucratic funding, more easy-to-use incentives. I assume more freedom in form of less tax regulation would encourage existing companies to invest more in new tech startups to build more trust and say, okay, if I get incentivized that easy over my tax, I would just invest in this startup and see where it heads, right? That's what I have to say so far, and I hope there are critical questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. I am very much inclined to agree with everything that you have said. I have a follow-up question before we would get to questions from the audience. So please, audience, put your questions, comments in the chat box. There's already one I'm getting back to in a minute. But I would get back to a theme that all of you have raised, and that's the single market in access to capital. Martin, you said we have the talent in Europe. And that's certainly true. We have leading universities, we have leading incumbent companies, large and small, which still lead on global niche markets and have a technological edge there. But at the same time, we don't have so many companies in Europe that manage to, start up and scale. And that is a rather systemic problem, I see. You mentioned rightfully that we have many different languages in the EU, 24 official languages, in fact. And then on top of that, we have 27 national regimes for taxation, labor market policies, corporate law, commercial code, and consumer protection. We don't even have a single market for consumer protection in the EU for product safety and service like telecom services, financial services, healthcare services, even though consumer preferences, I would assume, do not very much differ across Europe. Now, you don't have all that in China. You don't have all that in the United States. We don't see perfect single markets there, but we don't have the language problem. So it's much easier to set up a business irrespective of industry and scale like crazy. You can't even scale a taxi business from, let's say, Tallinn, Estonia to Madrid in Spain, in Europe, while you can scale from Detroit to Silicon Valley and the other way around. That's a huge problem, which is why a lot of private capital, venture capital, including capital from German and other European family offices, is mostly going to the United States. So my question to all of you would be, what can the EU, and this should be an initiative pushed by member states, do to really improve the state of legal harmonization and by it economic integration in Europe? Marion, are there any signs about initiatives pushing for the creation of a real single market in Europe? If so, who's pushing for it? If not, who should be pushing for it? And Constanze and Martin, would a more harmonized legal or regulatory playing field make an impact on your company, especially as concerns opportunities, access to acquire external funding beyond government funding, of which plenty obviously is being made available? Starting with you, Mario.
It's a good answer, and you wrote an article about this, Matthias. And our single market is a success story. It's celebrated his 30th birthday, and I can say we have to harmonize the single market. You mentioned it, 24 languages, 27 countries. It's too much, and we have to harmonize legislation and do more to have a harmonized single market for energy. We need a single market for new technologies and so on, and we work on that. That's really clear. We have to go in this direction. And another point, and let me mention it, is I have read the question from Jagao in our chat box. Let me say at first, I mentioned it in my statement regarding Jagao's question. This is precisely the aim of the so-called omnibus proposals. These are regulations that are intended to take several different laws, some of which contradict each other, of whose scope of application overlaps, and simplify them. An example of this first omnibus, here the free reporting obligation laws, the Supply Chain Act, sustainability reporting, and the taxonomy are to be simplified. And 5 further omnibus laws will follow, which are intended to simplify law from all areas, from the internal market to agriculture. And that is first in history, and it must be good for us.
Yeah, very well. There's a lot that is going in the right direction now. Whether it's going to, be sufficient in the end of the day remains to be seen, obviously. But with the Omnibus initiative, the competitiveness compass, I think the EU, the European Commission primarily is currently walking in the right direction. Constanze.
I think we really need a more harmonized market, especially if we're looking at the investment case. And I mean, we have to, if we want to have investment, we have to show a perspective how a startup can scale, how it can develop, what markets you can address, how they will grow. And it's oftentimes difficult to explain if we show a certain growth that we assume that we can really reach that and really make sure that we can reach that amount of customers and have not to change the product for each market individually, or really, I mean, this is the worst case, to individualize your product that you want to scale. So those are goals that go into different directions. And if we can harmonize that a little bit more, then I think it's easier to really paint that picture for investors, and make sure that we can that we can really assume that such a growth is possible, and not just a wide vision that no one trusts. So I think that would help immensely in securing investment, and especially in larger phases.
Okay, trust is also important. That's certainly true. We'll come back to this in a minute. There's been a question about the AI Act and Europe's investment attractiveness, which is also a function of trust, I would say. But let's first get back to Martin about the single market, but also perhaps tax incentives and differences we see when we look to the United States across the pond.
It's a hard question for me. I mean, I'm not a politician. I'm not too much into all the regulation stuff. I'm just at the tip of the iceberg, I would just want to say. But what I see is also as a citizen of Europe is that it seems there is so much regulation, and we stray away from what the EU was in the first place. It was a cooperation from an economical perspective. So everything was in line to make this happen. Now it seems to be a little bit too much for many people. That leads to the question that came inside right now, that more nations start to be more national in their mindset again, raising up more right-wing parties, and trying to force breakup with the EU maybe. So what I want to say is maybe less regulation, more focusing on the economical sides again, breaking it down just to this might help, but this is really a top point of view. I'm not so deep into it. It's just what I see from how voting is happening and so on. And as I stated before, tax incentives might help a little bit better because they are easy. There's something called in Germany Forschungszulage, scientific, whatever. You get like up to 35%. 4 years ago for what you invested in doing a project, for example. You can get this directly from, don't know what to say, where you spend your tax to. The IRC in the US is called like this. And that's easy to do, right? Would help maybe, but I can't say really what's the best way. It's not my task.
Okay, sure. Then a question that is also directed to you, Martin and Constanze. rather simple but broad question. What motivates you as entrepreneurs, in brackets, entrepreneurs in East Germany, to invest? And in both your businesses, does the AI Act lead to more or less investment? So my understanding is, Constanze, that you are helping businesses to comply with all sorts of regulation, like medical device regulation, but also the additional provisions in the AI Act. So that's obviously a good reason, I would assume, for you to invest in your activities, for others that invest in your companies. Is it similar to you in your business, Martin? And then there's one more question, and that is a question about the growing support in favor of one political party in East Germany in particular, and that's the AfD, political party that is often termed as far right-wing party. Talking to partners, colleagues, potentially investors, does it impact your business? And Marion, perhaps you could also follow up on this and give a more political reply here. Martin, would you like to start?
Could you please repeat your first question? It was so long, I have forgotten. Sorry for that.
Apologies. So I was trying to merge question.
Yeah, totally.
Very simple and broad question. What motivates you as entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I remember. So
you have to invest.
The most important thing is that you don't, when you start to found a company, you don't know what's coming. And that's the reason you go ahead, because you started, and in America you would say, "Mama did not raise no quitter," right? You just do it. You push it to the limits and try to stay alive and grow. But sometimes you wouldn't take the step if you would have known what awaits you in the future. I would say it like this. Now I would give away to Constanze or Marion in the first place before we answer the question from the chat, maybe to make it not too big.
Okay, Constanze.
Well, I mean, I have my social life here, my network, and so in the first place, I want to support my region, and I see very high potential in the companies that are here, that they can really profit from AI, and that this AI development will help them to really get further. And so I have a high motivation to really do that in this region. Of course, I could say I go somewhere else. I mean, we are currently thinking about the second part of the company in Switzerland, because we are gaining customers there. But I mean, in the end, that can't be the solution, right? To just leave everywhere and just think I go somewhere else. So there is a personal motivation because I like the people around me here, family, friends here, and to really help the region grow. And I think that there's very high potential. So I'm kind of curious to do that. Maybe it could be easier if you just select a region in the world where you will be most successful. But yeah, there's some interest to really develop the own region.
Mm-hmm. And before we address the political question about the AfD, the AI Act, helpful for your business or not so helpful? Constanze and then Martin.
I think in one way it will be accelerator because a lot of companies will be forced to follow those requirements, and so I hope some of them will use our solution. But yeah, on the other hand, I see several discussions where it brings some kind of more hesitation into the whole story. If you tell people you should use AI, you should adapt AI, they say, okay, there's another regulation next to what we already have to do. And so, it adds to the hesitation of some companies to go a step further, because they are not entirely sure if they already invest in the next step of AI, really then have enough budget for all the requirements for everything that comes with that step. We see some hesitation that the AI Act adds. And again, I hope we can overcome that. There's the motivation of the entrepreneur. We will overcome that and we can help there. But if there are from EU side some help maybe to solve some questions a little bit not so strict, that would be helpful, I think, as a signal to really support AI adoption.
Yeah, I would agree. Yesterday, we've seen, I think, the third draft of the code of practice for general purpose AI and general purpose AI in use cases with systemic risks. First voices, if I gather them correctly, are mixed, but those who urge for taking away the burden of certain compliance requirements have already expressed their views, and this is obviously reflected in a process which, in my view, is a very good process because there are so many different voices being heard, and I'm not sure if this has actually happened for any other policy that originated in process. Martin, your take on the AI Act.
Yeah, I would say it scares people, and we are a solution, or we deliver a solution that comes with a statement security in the first place. That's what it's all about. So for our business model, I think it will help us. We see an urge in customer requests starting this year. I don't know if it's it has something to do with the AI, but I think it will help us. And we're not affected of what is listed there because we just deliver the shell, the program all around the AI models, but use the open source models. And this is the the customer chooses these models, so it's his or her problem in the end. So it's easy for us to make use of it, I would say.
Very good. And Marion, what are your views about the impact of the AfD, the strong support the party enjoys, especially in East Germany, on business sentiment, investor confidence in the region?
I have two parts. At first, the AfD rhetoric about East Germany often emphasizes economic struggles, demographic homogeneity, and dissatisfaction with established political parties. While this approach helps the party gain traction, critics argue that it paints an overly negative picture of the region, potentially alienating voters and undermining local morale. And it helps not. And it's a story of responsibility and trust. And if we are successful in our region and we show that we can be successful and have our own way, then that's the question of the future, if it is possible to go our own development in East Germany. And we can show the positive examples. I have mentioned it in my statement. We have a lot of positive examples of development of young people. They are very specialist and on the top. They have not to go outside Thuringia, Saxonia, and Saxony-Anhalt. They can work in our region, and we must give the opportunity for them. And another answer I will give, it was the question, what can EU lawmakers learn from East Germany's economic transformation? And East Germany's transformation offers key lessons for the EU, I think. Its economic transformation after unification showed the importance of targeted investments in infrastructure like transportation and energy. And the EU can prioritize similar investments in struggling regions to foster economic integration. Education and skill development helped workers adapt to the market economy. EU lawmakers can replicate this by supporting programs to improve workforce competitiveness. And moreover, investments in innovation and digital development showed a huge impact. And so the EU can replicate those by providing tailored support, moreover by fostering public-private partnerships and ensuring that structural reforms align with local needs. I think that is really necessary.
Very good. Thank you, Marion. You mentioned public-private partnerships, and there's a question in the chat box raised about the effectiveness, or actually also the capacity of research focusing on AI in East Germany. So this might be a question for you, Constanze, and also Martin. One is, how do you assess the current capacity for innovation in East German research institutions in the field of AI? A second, could we do better as concerns technology transfer between research institutions, businesses, and public sector institutions? And do you know how East German AI initiatives, if there are any, sit in European networks such as Gaia-X and Alice? Yeah, please pick the topics that you are most comfortable with.
Who should start? Constanze, you, or shall I? What do you suggest?
What's the question? I thought you
just
said you would start. No, just to start.
Okay, thank you. Well, I wouldn't say there is much innovation seen right now. There's an initiative, they call it TIAS. There is over more than one city, there's a huge thing created with money from the state. I know the professor, they do robotics and AI. It's Jena and Ilmenau, and there's nothing coming out. I know because I know the professor, he's close to getting retired, and he didn't even knew stuff I was working with 3 years ago. There is not much really innovation coming from. That's bad to say, but I don't see it. And how about the technology transfer? Well, what we need is something like DARPA, I would say. We need more connection between the industry that is funding the universities, as well as the students. They come out of the universities. There must be a close handshake where they go directly into the industry. Everyone is working together, and this might work a lot better than what we have now. It's not really strong bonding between universities and companies yet, I see. And the professors I knew, or I know, that really worked with companies together, they had a lot of budget, many scientists, but there are also most of them that have just like 2 employees just doing scientific work a little bit. That's okay too, but you have to go the, how to say, capitalistic way to bring innovation also in the industry, even from the university.
Yeah, the free market way. Just to intervene shortly, if there's anyone interested in DARPA and whether in Europe needs a DARPA, we are going to host an online webinar which is open to the public tomorrow at I think 3 p.m. So I've put a event registration form in our chat box. Feel free to join as well. Constanze, what are your views about the quality and the capacity of East Germany's research community as concerns AI?
I think I'd like to add that what we see, especially in Jena, from transfer from research into startups and companies, that we have in Jena, I mean, a good system, I think. So we see several startups that come from research institutes. I think there was a focus on such a development in the last years. And I think we see an increase of those companies that are spin-off of university projects. So I'd like to add to that there is some movement in there. And I think there are some limitations how IP questions are handled that are most problematic in those processes, so that those companies can really work with what they did, or the startups can really work with the transferred knowledge. I think this is, but that there is transfer, and especially programs like Exist, I saw from far worked quite well in the last years. So there are programs. I think the AI capacity that we currently have could be improved a little bit. I think there are several topics that kind of develop in parallel. So some businesses already did stuff that research kind of presented as new and research topics. So I think there maybe needs to be a little bit more of a reorientation, or maybe of a cooperation of such topics, to really not double on what's done in different areas. But I think there are a lot of working groups that do interesting stuff, and also in cooperation with companies that could be a nice start for further development and further innovation, if we then really help the companies after that grow.
Very good. Okay, I think we need to come to a close. Before we do so, I would like to get back to a key question of this event. What are the lessons the EU, but also member state governments can take to inform and improve EU policy making? If you had to submit a wish list, what would be your 3 priority items on this list? Martin, then Constanze, and then Marion, please.
It's hard to say. I think it's nothing one can force. What I've learned by selling the products is the most important thing is the network. You have to get into the market and get visible there. So that's not something one can get easy, even with money. We need networks and press and so on. It's hard to say. That's what I would wish for: more network, more visibility. But I cannot say how to achieve it. But and force the existing companies to get in touch with new startups. But how to do it, don't know.
Okay, very good. Very entrepreneurial. Constanze.
I think would like to support Martin, that maybe also tax credits or different measures to really incentivize companies to work together with startups and really have the opportunity to try out what they offer. It's a really good thing. And I need in some measures, we need faster cycles of checking if a strategy is actually working, or maybe there are points that need some adjustment. For example, the AI trainers that maybe might need a little bit different direction or different perspective for their work, and maybe how it's measured, if the strategies are working out. So I would wish for faster cycles to really check on those topics, because we are in a really innovative and fast-paced development. And I think we need to match that in the strategies that we see or try to use.
Very good. And Marion?
I want to say that in one sentence, East Germany offers key lessons for the EU. And we have to do our lessons. And I think we should have often discussions about this issue. And we have to talk more about the development in East Germany. Thank you for this discussion.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, then I think we come to a close. I would like to thank you all for engaging in this conversation today. I think it's been a very topical discussion and a highly insightful discussion. So thank you very much for sharing with us what you do, sharing with us what you would like EU policymakers and member state governments to do to improve economic conditions, not only in East Germany, but generally, I would say, in any structurally disadvantaged region in Europe, and that also includes many Central and Eastern European countries, if I can say so. We will make available a recording of this conversation on our YouTube channel, ECIPE's YouTube channel. Please feel free to revert to it, and please feel free to share it with your partners, colleagues, friends, and help us improve EU policymaking. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.